right. We are live. Thank you so much for anyone tuning in, whether live or on the recording. I just got back from the United Kingdom and Amsterdam, and I had a lot of fun. And so I want to just give some updates. Before I left, I launched these kind of weekly or bi-weekly updates as a podcast. So you can watch it still here on YouTube, or you can listen on Apple or Spotify. It's called The Joe Ellis Effect, and that's the name of the podcast, but on YouTube, it's just the name of the playlist. So subscribe and tune in if you want to listen to these on the go and not have to use YouTube. That would be great. I don't know if I'll do anything else with it. Right now, it's just a way to kind of capture these updates, but maybe one day I'll have guests and stuff or whatever once we build an audience. But till then, I will keep doing these just like this. Let's see. What else? I made a post not long before I left. I figure I'll share it with you all. Let's see. Come on. There we go. I'll read it because this got a little bit of what do I want to say? It had some controversy behind it. So I'll just read it. Transition for me wasn't about finding a new personality. It was about finding a way to keep on living free from the constant weight of dysphoria. I've been asymptomatic since transitioning, and that's allowed me to focus on life and work without distraction. But transition isn't a cure-all. It won't fix a broken life. Before anyone goes down that path, the basics matter. Diet, sleep, exercise, community, spirituality. There are two sexes, male and female, with rare physical variations like intersex. Some of us experience brain-based variations that cause gender dysphoria. I believe it's a mental health condition that should be treated. That's what I've lived with most of my life until recently. I don't want society to change to fit me. My goal is to fit into the mostly binary world that we live in. Transition doesn't erase the binary, and it comes with challenges, from safety in spaces to fairness in sports to tough questions about medical care for minors. My instinct is caution. Transition under 18 should be extremely rare, if allowed at all, and only after the least invasive options have been tried. At the same time, those who do transition and those who detransition deserve care, dignity, and support. My views continue to evolve, but for now, this is my current opinion. Transition is sometimes necessary, often misunderstood, and never something to take lightly. And then I posted, in that post, it's a before and after picture. So not long before, maybe a year before I started transition, on the left, in my uniform, actually outside of a Blackhawk, right after, actually, I think that's right before a flight. I can't remember. It had just rained, so I think I was about to fly because we lucked out on the rain. And then after, this was when I was in Austin back in June, sitting at a cafe. The natural lighting was perfect, and so I just had to snap a picture. It got 440,000 views, so it got seen by a lot of people. Mostly a turf storm. I don't know what it is about before and after pictures, but something every time it seems like I post one, it gets a lot of turf attention. I think it's because I'm saying how happy I am and stuff, but this one I actually didn't really say that very much. I just kind of talked about my views on the thing. Um, it got so much attention that Graham Lennon entered the comments. Him and I were going back and forth not too long ago before this post, and he actually commented. He deleted it, but he commented, "Well, we agree. I'm sorry if I misunderstood you when we first spoke." I think he thought I was like a far lefty who wanted transition for every kid and all these things that I'd never said. And so him and I were going back and forth on a different post about Tyler Black. And then when he saw this post, he commented. And this was right after he got released from prison not prison, I guess jail, in the UK and came back to the US. And so he had just kind of gotten back online. That comment didn't last very long because the turfs that are very pro Graham Lennon found it and started retweeting it, saying that, oh, we've wasted our money supporting this guy because look, he's agreeing with a trans person. And so he deleted his comment, but it kind of made the rounds and it just drew a lot of attention to my post, which good and bad, I guess. So that was fun. And then I posted, sorry if your agreement with me got you in trouble with your friends. It's okay to have reasonable discourse. And then I posted the screenshots just so people could see that they're basically attacking him for agreeing with me, which I don't know what the TERF's mission is, but if their mission is to never agree with a trans person about being who they are, regardless of how you feel about spaces and bathrooms, I would think they would actually want to support some trans people that exist um, that don't fall in that space, because I am very much undecided about a lot of that stuff and I lean towards staying out of women's spaces and things like that. So it's just weird. But, once people have their sides, they feel like no one can agree with them, I guess. And, it brought a lot of attention to my profile and a lot of retweets about guns and people posting just all my jokes and saying, look how terrible this guy is and look what this man is saying. And, just all the typical turf reaction stuff. But I just thought that was kind of funny. Um, what else? So that was right before I left Texas. And then the last weekend, when I was in Texas, I actually got the Comedy Mothership open mic spot. So every Monday, you can sign up to be on Kill Tony. You can sign up for the bucket, and then you can also sign up to be in the open mic and crew show that's every Monday night as well in the other room inside the Comedy Mothership. And so I signed up. I've signed up 6 times maybe. They pick 16 people at random. And so I just happened to get picked the last Monday I was there. I didn't get picked for Kill Tony, but I did get picked for the open mic, which is great because I really wanted to do that as well. And I got 3 minutes to tell jokes, and it went really well. I got a lot of laughs, and when I was leaving, a lot of the other comedians that are also crew there were like, good job, fist bumping and stuff. And it was just really fun. Usually there's like a booker or a talent booker, I think, there watching, but he wasn't there. At least I didn't see him. And the host said he wasn't there. So if you do really well, you can get a callback. And it's kind of like an audition for being a regular at the mothership. And so I don't know if I didn't do well enough or if he really wasn't there, or maybe he'll watch the tapes later because I think they record all sets inside there. But either way, it doesn't matter to me because I did, I think I did as well as I can, if that makes sense. Like, I liken it to I went to take a test and I answered everything, everything that I knew, and I can't happen to know what I don't know. So I performed, I think, as good as I have ever performed in 3 minutes, which is a very tight timeline for jokes. And I got a lot of laughs. I did a little bit of crowd work, interaction. I felt like it was just an overall one of my best sets. So I'm really proud of it. If that's not good enough for a callback, then that's fine because I couldn't have done any better. I just need more time, I think, if I'm going to do any better. And so 13 weeks in, and it was a good time. And so yeah, I'm really happy with that set. And that was kind of like the cherry on top, leaving Austin that weekend because I left the next day. And I had a 24-hour turnaround. So I left Tuesday. I got home late Tuesday night, almost midnight, Wednesday. And then Wednesday morning, I got up very early, packed my bags, and left for Dulles Airport, Washington, D.C., and I flew out to the United Kingdom and went to a skateboarding retreat in the woods. It's called the Skate Retreat, and I had a lovely time. I was there for a 4 day camp, and then I helped and volunteered for a 2 day learn to skate camp. So it was a lot of fun helping people, coaching some people. Um, Trying to think, what else happened? Like it was just a really good disconnect. And so a great time. There's a documentary crew that's making a documentary about me and two other trans military people that have been kicked out. And they were there. They came out for a day and filmed me at the skate retreat, skateboarding and helping out in the kitchen and stuff. It was really fun just to be disconnected in the woods, away from kind of the stress of the last 7 months of my life. Um, so it was a good time. Trying to think. Oh, as I was getting on the plane, I heard the terrible, terrible news of the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Um, Very disturbing, and I posted on Twitter as I was hopping on the plane, like, prayers for him and the family. And then I saw that he passed away because I caught it right as soon as the news broke that he had been shot. And then as I was getting on the plane, the news broke that he died from his wounds. And there's just no place for that kind of violence. Like if you can't go and debate somebody at a college without fear of being murdered, I just don't know. I just don't know what the point is about any of this when it comes to free speech and advocating for what you believe in. Because regardless of how you feel about Charlie Kirk's politics, um, I want to be able to go to a college and if I'm invited and speak freely without the risk of being shot, you know? And so it's something I always respected about Charlie is that he would debate anybody. Um, and he would let them speak. He would put his microphone down, right? Like that was very much of his signature was putting his microphone down while the other person would speak, and then he would pick it up when it was his turn. And so I felt like that really signaled to people watching that he was letting the person speak and removing that urge to talk over somebody, right? And so once again, I'm sure you all could guess that um, I have different politics. I'm sure we agree on things and we disagree on things, and it's really not about stating what I do and don't believe when it comes to Charlie. It's just it's a human being. It's a fellow American citizen that was brutally murdered, and I just it really bugged me um, because I was looking at a little bit of it as the flight was getting ready for takeoff, and it was just almost immediate. People started blaming all sorts of reasons why Charlie was assassinated. And, of course, it went to trans people and it went to this and it went to that. And the left are violent and the right is violent. No, the shooter was left. No, the shooter was right. And I saw a little bit of that, and I would check in every now and then, but I just tried really hard not to engage since I was away at the skate retreat and very little signal, very little ability to charge my phone for that whole week. And so I really spent a lot of time just thinking about it. And then when I caught up with the discourse, it, the online taking sides has happened so fast now. It used to take time that people would politicize and jump to conclusions and push agendas when it came to a tragedy. But now it's instant. Just like with me and the crash rumor, like within 24 hours, right, I was being blamed for something I didn't do. And within 30 minutes, I started seeing trans people being blamed. I started seeing right wingers being blamed. Like it was immediate, and the internet is great in some ways because it gets information out there really fast, and the internet is terrible when there's a lack of information. And I heard something like this on Jon Stewart's podcast. He had a guy on and was talking about this, that when you have a vacuum of information, people on the internet try to fill it as fast as possible, because as soon as you can get something out there and get it trending, you make money off of it. I mean, that's the bottom line, whether it's directly from monetization of your profile to indirectly to gaining new followers. Like, you make money off of being one of the first to put something controversial out there. And so it happens almost instantly now, from the Benny Johnsons and the Brian, God, I forget his name, Krasian, I can't say his name. But just all of those talking heads, right, that are online. It's pretty sad. So anyway, if anyone's watching on YouTube, feel free to jump in about it. It's just, that's kind of my thoughts on the whole thing. My heart goes out to the Kirk family and friends. It's which I posted it immediately on Twitter. That's all you can say, like, or don't say anything at all. But celebrating anyone's death when they were not a criminal, when they didn't do anything wrong, like, legally, I mean, like, you might disagree with, like I said, Charlie, but he he didn't deserve that. And for anyone to say that he deserves that can say the same about me. If you can disagree with Charlie to the point of celebrating he's dead, then what's going to stop someone from doing the same to you? Right? Just for opinions. So that's kind of my thoughts on the whole thing. I don't want to be associated with people who celebrate the murder of any right wing, left wing, anybody. It's If I were killed today, what would be said about me? Who would celebrate it? We can be better than this, especially as Americans. We don't have to be dramatically better either. We just need to be 1%. 1% better every day. This country is capable of so much good. And we've become this online mob that needs to have an opinion on everything. And I listen to Ryan Holiday a lot. He's the author of The Daily Stoic and a bunch of books. And he shares, I think it's a quote from Marcus Aurelius, maybe. I can't remember. But it boils down to this: there's power and freedom in not having an opinion about everything. And when you scroll social media and you watch everybody interacting, everybody is looking for an opinion on something. For everything that happens. Oh, this happened. Or they said this about this, but they said nothing about that. Like, it's all this us and them bullshit. And yeah, you don't need to have an opinion on everything. Charlie Kirk was assassinated. You don't have to say anything about it. Free yourself. If you didn't know the guy and he doesn't affect your daily life, Free yourself of having to say anything. We don't need it. There's a billion opinions out there already. Do you think you're, oh, I didn't agree with him on everything, but, or, he said all these terrible things, but do you really think we need hundreds of versions of that? If you're going to say something, it's a tragedy. It shouldn't have happened. No one should be murdered for speaking their opinions. Simple as that. You don't have to caveat this shit. Anyway, enough of my ranting. Um, yeah, so I had a lot to think about while I was in the woods. Oh, Venus, welcome home, Joe. Let me put this on the screen for everybody. Right. Welcome home, Joe. Hope your clip, hope you clip, okay, now I can read. Hope you clip your statement about Charlie and share it far and wide. As always, you have nuanced, objective words of wisdom that bridges both sides well. Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Venus. I really appreciate that. Yeah, I probably will clip it. Like, I struggle with that too, because as I was coming up with what I was going to talk about today, I was this close to just not mentioning it at all because I just kind of ranted about you don't need to have an opinion about everything. You don't need to say everything. Like, but once again, being pushed into the spotlight, I get this pressure from people to, and not from you, Venus, but just pressure in general, this feeling of pressure that I need to, that people are almost looking for me to lead with the nuance approach that I always do, and that it's a void that needs to be filled because there's not many people doing it. And so I always struggle with it. Like, on the one hand, nothing else needs to be said about it. But on the other hand, there's not many trans people. There's not many non-hyper partisan people. I'll just put it that way. Speaking in nuance. Everyone's on their own camp. Everyone's in their own side. And I'm in the middle. Stuck in the middle with you. All right. Moving on. Some Mothership open mic. That was great. Oh, while I was there in Texas, I don't know if I said this before. While I was in Texas, I went to a show at the Mothership and I got sat next to someone who turned out to be a reporter from the United Kingdom, from The Observer. And he asked me, he was like, hey, I would just want to know your opinion on being a woman and being here and like a fan of comedy because I see you're here by yourself. And I kind of laughed. I was like, well, I mean, I'm almost woman, I'm trans. And he's like, oh, like I couldn't tell, which, whew, that does it for me. If he had been single right there, no, I'm just kidding. No, it was really cool to have passed in a dark comedy room. But yeah, he started talking to me, and I say, hey, I'm trans, and I was actually on Kill Tony and stuff, and I just started talking about the craziness and why I was back in Texas. And he was like, hey, can I interview you tomorrow? And I was like, sure. And so the next day, um, we met up at Shakespeare's. It was Dave Smith. When I was watching Dave Smith. That's what it was. It was on a Sunday night. Monday, yeah, I got to interview with him, and I don't know when or if anything will come out about it. He was doing a bigger piece on comedy in general, I think, in Texas or in Austin. Um, but he said it would be a while. He says it's like a longer, slower piece. But I just thought that was interesting that I got sat next to somebody and he just happened to be a reporter and fascinated with my story. So that was kind of funny. Um, what else happened? Yeah, that's about it. Then I turned around and traveled to the UK within 24 hours. Um, got to the skate retreat. Documentary crew was there filming one of the days. Oh, and then I went to Amsterdam and that was really fun. On my way home, I stopped in Amsterdam and stayed for 4 days. And I've been doing that every year, by the way. The skate retreat in Amsterdam weekend, I've been doing that. This is my third time and third year in a row. And I know the owner of a queer bar there, Lullabelle. And so I went. There was supposed to be a comedy night, and so I was like, "Oh, this is exciting! I want to check out what comedy's like in Amsterdam." And so I went, and the comedians canceled, and I was like, "Dang it! I really wanted to see comedy." And some people showed up, like, "Oh, is there comedy?" And they're like, "No, sorry, they canceled last minute." And I looked at the owner and I said, "Hey, I'll do a show. I wasn't planning on it, but I'll hop up there and tell some jokes if you want." And she was like, "Yeah, sure." So I did stand up in a bar in Amsterdam on a moment's notice to 5 people that were sticking around that actually showed up and didn't get the word that the other show was canceled. And so that was really fun because I didn't know how well any of those jokes would land in Amsterdam. Um, and the people watching was kind of diverse. So it was like someone from Slovakia, someone from Austria, 2 people from Belgium, the owner of the bar who is from Amsterdam but originally from New Jersey actually, and then me, of course, being from Virginia. So it was a pretty cool experience. Everyone was queer in some way, so it was really fun, and a lot of my jokes actually did pretty well. I think it was one of the longer sets I've ever done. I think I was up there for about 24 minutes. And that's mostly because at the end of my 15-ish minute set, um, I kind of tried to just do some crowd work and just be silly with them and ask them a few questions. And that was really fun. I posted it on my Twitter, the whole set, and also on Instagram. So if you want to watch it, you can. It was very much a casual let me try these jokes vibe. I wasn't trying to do like an actual performance because I kind of wanted to make it really personal with the 5 people that were there and walk them through some of the jokes because some of them I didn't know if they would work, and like one of them was about Chick-fil-A, for example. So I asked him like, "Hey, do you even know what this restaurant is?" Because it's not in Europe, it's not even in all of the US. And they responded, "Oh, we know what that is. That's the homophobic one." And so I laughed because that's that's their frame of reference is that Chick-fil-A is the homophobic restaurant. So, but it was funny. It was a good time. And it was nice because I hadn't done stand up since the Mothership open mic a week and some change prior. So it was good to kind of shake the rust and tell some of those jokes again. And yeah, it was really fun. So if you want to watch it, check it out. I think I edited it down to 12 minutes because I didn't want all of my jokes out there. But then I also cut some of the dead space and some of the responses to some of the questions I asked because they just weren't funny or because I didn't want to give away too much of the people that were in there, like their personal details that they were giving, just to respect their privacy. Let's see what else we got. This is fun. Um, Christina P, who's a comedian who happens to be married to Tom Segura, started following me on Instagram. I guess you could say things are getting serious now. No, but no, it was cool. I just saw it in my notifications. I was scrolling. I was like, the Christina P, like that's her handle, the Christina P. It's like started following. I was like, oh, that's amazing because I watched her specials on Netflix and I've always been a fan, and of course I'm a fan of Tom Segura. But it was kind of neat to get followed by her. I sent her a DM. I was like, hey, thanks for following me. She's a very busy person, so she did not respond. But I was just kind of like, ah, that's so cool. Like, I always curious whenever a big account like that follows me. Like, how did they find me? Like, did they see something I did and they liked it, or yeah, I'm always curious because a couple of accounts like that have followed me, and it's just it feels pretty neat. Um, you know, some sort of notice from people. Let's see. think that's about it. Oh, I did want to talk about not necessarily the happiest, but let's see if I can find my post. The other things that happened in the last 3 weeks. The the DOJ looking to crack down on trans people with their Second Amendment, owning guns, which I'm an avid gun owner. Venus, if this is too personal, please feel free not to answer. I never knew you wore a wig until you debuted your natural hair on the last episode. Yeah, yeah, this is a wig as well. Yeah, I'm still working on my natural hair, so it's no, and it's not too personal because I said it on the last episode. But how's your natural hair? Was it comfortable to go wigless at the retreat? Oh, yes. I was wigless the whole time at the retreat. I just wear a hat because it's really it's the hairline that still kind of bugs me. I actually got I in November I'm gonna get hair restoration. So I'm gonna get some hair treatments and transplants to fix up the hairline. But yeah, like when I wear a hat, like I'm actually really happy with it because I feel like it looks really nice, and the hat kind of just covers the spot that I don't feel super comfortable about. Because when I got the face surgery, I did get a scalp advancement, and it did round and advance my scalp and fix a lot of the receding hairline that I had. And that hair in that process got cut, and then it has to grow back out, and it's kind of like at a couple inches now. So it looks kind of just weird, like because I've got really long hair, and then I've got the short hairs that are going back in, and then it's still kind of sparse in general, just because I'm in my 30s and I didn't start HRT until a couple of years ago. Um, but yeah, I love my natural hair. I got it, like colored and stuff while I was in Austin, and I'm working on it. And sometimes I can style it in a way that, like the way I flip it over and stuff, I feel pretty good with it. Um, but God, I feel like this wig is like my superpower. Like when I put this thing on, it's just like frames my face and like gives me all the volume I want. Like it's really made me spoiled. And so until I get my actual hair the way I want it, especially for like media appearances and stuff and things like that, I'm gonna keep probably using the wig. But yeah, when I'm more casual and I don't really care, I'm just going to go out into town. I'll just throw on a hat or a beanie or something and rock my natural hair because it's gotten pretty long as you saw on the last video. But yeah, at the retreat, I was just wearing a hat most of the time and just enjoying not wearing that. And actually, traveling too, to Europe and back, I decided to go without the wig during travel, which was way more comfortable on a plane for that long. Because it's about 7 hours to get to Amsterdam, and then another hour waiting, and then another hour to get to the UK. Then I drove for 3 hours or 2 hours. Drove a rental car, which was really fun in the UK. It's my third time doing that, but it was a stick shift, and you're in the right side of the car, and you're driving, on the left side of the road, and so it's really fun. Um, but like I was saying with the Second Amendment stuff, let's see. Oh yeah, this. So it was rumored that people at the DOJ were reviewing ways to ensure people suffering from gender dysphoria are unable to obtain firearms. And this was after the God, it's sad that as a nation we're losing count of shootings. This was after the Catholic school shooting where the person had a history of being trans. And I say that specifically history of being trans on purpose because I believe that they had said they didn't want to be trans anymore or had done some sort of detransition process. It was very confusing, but what it looked like to me is the person had a history of being trans. I don't know where they stood at the last minute, and frankly, it doesn't really matter. They were clearly unwell, um, beyond being trans or not. Um, and so, yeah, like between that and then there was one more related to that. Let me just scroll up to it. That's my post about Charlie, my skate retreat. Um, oh, yes, the Heritage Foundation and the rhetoric they're trying to use. They're calling it TIVE, trans incited violent extremism, I think. I thought I had a better picture of this. Where is it? Nihilistic violent extremists, and they want to have a category for trans people specifically. Kind of, it's like 1 degree separation from trying to call certain people that are trans domestic terrorists. And so, yeah, I think I posted on Instagram a little bit more clear. Let me just pull that up. Yes, this is what I was talking about. Transgender ideology inspired violent extremism, TIVE. This is, let me just read the post because I think that summed it up very well. They have stated, and when I say they, I'm talking about the Heritage Foundation specifically. They have stated both recently and in Project 2025 they want to be rid of transgenderism. So now they want to make it a crime, and maybe crime was not the right word. They want to make it be a blip on the FBI's radar, to say that they're trying to eradicate transgender people. So if I say online, you're trying to eradicate trans people, that Heritage Foundation wants the FBI to classify that as potentially being trans ideology inspired violent extremism. It's getting a little crazy, right? And so what that means is, um, I'll read some more. So they want to make it a crime to say that they're trying to eradicate trans people. But to eradicate transgenderism, and using their words, that would mean most likely banning transition related healthcare, which they say they want to do. It would be legally forcing people to live as the birth sex, which they say they want to do. It would be suppressing social recognition like names, pronouns, IDs, sports, bathrooms, etc., which they say they want to do. And then stigmatizing and erasing visibility and culture, which they say they want to do. Like the Trump administration has removed trans references from, websites and stuff. So like they want to do all these things. All of those measures, in effect, deny trans people the ability to exist openly and authentically. In practice, it would mean eradicating trans people as a recognizable, functioning group in society. Not necessarily physically eliminating us, but it would make it so difficult for us to live the way we are. So, in short, yes, eradicating transgenderism is eradicating trans people from public life, even if they only claim that they're targeting the ideology. And so that's the problem here with this is if you look at these documents, if you look at these documents that they put out, oh, there's the arrow. There's some interesting key terms here. So a characteristic of trans ideology violent extremism is literally, in their document, the trans flag with protect their right to exist written in the middle. So if I say we need to protect trans people's right to exist. They are classifying that, and they want the FBI to classify that as violent extremism. That sounds fucking nuts, right? And there's some other things in here. Terminology used by people who are trans and trans ideology, violent extremism. So if you use the term cisgender, that's a term that they're saying are used by these violent extremists. If you use the term misgendering, if you say the phrase right to exist, if you say transgenocide, if you say the phrase you either have a live boy or a dead girl or vice versa, you choose. You know, this is kind of nuts because right to exist shouldn't be related to extremism. All lives matter, right? And this is an example of a trans person who posted something, and the Oversight Project, which is related to the Heritage Foundation, saw it and said, that, oh, this is an example of TIVE coming from this professor. The notion that opposing trans ideology is a form of violence. Eradication here leads people to justify violence. Okay, so if I say you opposing my ability to get my ID to say female is trying to eradicate me in public life, they're saying if I say that, that's violent extremism, or it could lead to violent extremism. Okay. What's crazy is Michael Knowles, who is affiliated with the Heritage Foundation in 2023, explicitly called for the eradication of transgenderism. And in the 900 pages of Project 2025, there's many references to trans being trying to eliminate transgender ideology, and it even says that it is a result of pornography. And so, if it is a result of pornography, and it says pornography should be banned in the Project 2025, it says this, then they want to, you know, if this then that, right? So that means they would want to ban transgender people, because if they say it comes from pornography and pornography should be banned, they want to eliminate transgender ideology and transgenderism, which in effect, the process to eliminate that from public life would eliminate our ability to live publicly as trans people. They already say trans doesn't exist. I mean, that right there is enough to say they're trying to eliminate our ability to exist by saying we don't exist as trans people, that we're just fetish men or lost women or confused people or whatever it is, right? So it's very troubling. It's very troubling to see this. And I also posted this on Twitter. They just recently discharged, like, I don't know, anywhere between 6 and 15,000 well-trained lethal soldiers who are trans from the military, myself included. And now you want to label us violent extremists? Like, good fucking luck. You have some of the strongest, most capable advocates for trans people now, because we're no longer tied to having to follow the Department of Defense, or now the Department of War, their policies on being political. If they'd let us stay serving, we would have had to be quiet. But now we don't have to be quiet. So this is going to be interesting. I'm curious. I'm curious what other people will do. Oh, thanks, Harold, for joining. I can't tell if you posted something. I can't see it. It just says that you're here. Oh, you reposted the stream. Thanks so much for reposting the stream. I really appreciate that, Harold. So yeah, it's frustrating because I am not an alarmist. I am not someone who does the clickbaity, I see this thing and that means this domino effect and therefore, but it's hard not to see this and think that they're saying the quiet parts out loud. They want to squash our ability to be public in all ways, shapes, or forms. So much so that terminology that we use in our advocacy, they're targeting that and saying that if we are saying that, then we are inciting violence. And so I'm curious. I'm curious when I'm going to trip the violent extremism tripwire and be targeted. Because as I've posted plenty of times, I've got a shitload of guns. I like to go to gun ranges. I like to shoot them. I'm very pro Second Amendment. And in the last 3 weeks, they've talked about taking away my guns as a trans person and labeling me a violent extremist. What? Change this to anything else. Change this to Jew or black or gay. I feel like in a funny way, this is like when someone tells you you're being argumentative and you try to tell them, no, I'm not. Like they're labeling our speech as extremism and it's only going to elicit a reaction, which they're going to point at and say, see, they're being extreme. I don't know. It's troubling. When I was in Amsterdam talking to my friend who owns a bar, and I met some other people that were Americans that were also fleeing. It's hard not to get caught up in that and the idea of fleeing, right? Um, but I'm a fighter. I am also an idealist, so I actually think I can make a difference. I actually think that I can change hearts and minds one dick joke at a time on stage. Um, I don't know. What do you all think? Post your comments. Post in the live chat right now. What do we do? How do we fight back? How do we argue with someone who says we're argumentative? Because, like, anything I do, they're going to say, look, this trans person's being extreme. I was surprised, to be honest, because of some of the things I've said on Twitter. Um, I was a little surprised that I didn't get questioned when I was coming back into the country. But to be honest, it was like 10-minute immigration from the line all the way through to getting my bag. So I have nothing but good things to say about TSA and border immigration at Dulles Airport. They let me right in. He even called me ma'am, and I wasn't even wearing the wig. I was just wearing my hat, and I had my natural hair out. So not everyone is representative of what we see online. I met a lot of really good people when traveling, Europe and American, and they're watching. Met many people in Amsterdam that thought the U.S. is losing its mind, and I just don't know what to do. I don't know what to do other than keep speaking, keep having discussions, keep talking with people who disagree with us. Because if we learn anything with the tragic assassination of Charlie Kirk, if we learn anything with what they're saying every time there's a horrible shooting, they're blaming trans people and saying we should be locked up in asylums and all this stuff. If we learn anything, is that not enough people are having conversations with people who disagree. So much so that they don't like it that they shoot someone that they disagree with, who's literally in the middle of having a discussion with someone who thinks differently than them. And it was being broadcast, or would have been, yeah, it was being broadcast to a huge audience. Um, that's my approach. That's why I went on Kill Tony. I wanted to be in a room of people who weren't necessarily on my side and were more likely than not on my side. And I won people over. And I feel like that's the only way. Well, I guess that's about it for today. That's kind of where my head's at. So it's nice to be back. I've got some gigs lined up. So if you're in the Richmond area, I've got a gig on the 5th that I've posted about, and also one coming up on the 22nd. Some comedy gigs. And then I'll be headed back to Texas November 1st. I will be there for 3 months. So I'm gonna drive down there, so it's like a 19-hour drive from where I am. But 3 months there, I gotta have my car. I'm such a car nut that I need my car. So I'm gonna drive my car out there. Um, and so I'll be in Texas and Austin for 3 months, and that's I'll also be getting my hair restoration while I'm in Texas. And so I'm really excited to be there longer so I don't have to do so much in such little time. I can have more of a normal schedule while I'm in Texas because I'm still working my day job remotely. And so, yeah, it'll be 3 months, and hopefully I can get some gigs down there and keep making an impression. Um, another question from Venus. Let's see what we got here. Do you wonder if Antifa style or nihilist type groups target other minority groups, including trans, because trans feel underrepresented, and then recruit them into other ideologies? Yeah, like I mentioned before, Jon Stewart had a really interesting guy on his podcast this past week, and he was talking about how it's like a memification of these shooters. Like they're almost doing it to get the online discourse afterwards. He talked about how each shooter is writing the previous shooters on their weapons or somewhere, and in hopes that the next shooter writes their name. And the little reference to, if I see this phrase on Fox News, I'll lose it, or whatever, that the Charlie Kirk assassin had written. He said that that was evidence towards the idea that part of the reason why these folks might be doing this is because they want people on Fox News to think that they're smart, or so interesting that they have to decode these messages, and at the same time it's funny because it's just a meme and they're saying the words on cable. I'm probably not doing it justice what this guy was talking about, but it was very interesting to hear that, like you're saying, Venus, that one leads into the other. And so it's interesting, right? Like when I meet someone who is in their 20s, who happens to be queer identifying, they tend to also be very vocal about Palestine. And I'm not taking a side on any of these issues. I'm just stating this. It's an interesting pattern I've noticed. In their 20s, queer identifying, pro Palestine, um, says things like Israel's like causing a causing a genocide in Gaza. They also tend to be vegetarian or vegan. And I'm only saying this because it's a weird pattern I've noticed. And they also tend to be very much leaning towards Marxism or socialism. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just what all their friends do or what. But so to your point, Venus, about Antifa or nihilist type groups targeting other minority groups because they're underrepresented. Yeah, I think so. I think, and I don't know if they're necessarily targeting them. I think the idea is that they're like any cult or anything, right? You love bomb people, like you just wrap your arms around them and bring them in to your group. And a lot of these young 20 somethings feel lost. Their job prospects suck. Um, they the chances of them owning a house in the next 10 years is very low. Um, so I think it's easy for them to, and they're chronically online. So that's the other common trait is they're chronically online. And so I think it's easy for them to fall into these Discord groups and these chat groups where they're in an echo chamber of nihilist or Antifa type things, or just the feeling that they're powerless, I think is also big. And when they feel like they're in a group that maybe has some power or the ability to take power, I think some more extremist rhetoric starts to come out. But it's just something I've noticed in like the 20 somethings. Um, and my daughter is 18, and I thankfully she's not in any of these groups that I'm aware of. And she has a job, and she actually recently moved out on her own and trying to do the adult thing. So I'm really proud of her. Um, but it's something I've noticed even among some of her peers, not necessarily her friends, but some of her peers that just they seem a little hopeless. Like it doesn't seem like America's offering them an opportunity. And I turned 18 during the housing crisis, 2008. So I felt hopeless too, but I also felt like there was still an American dream I could strive for. And in fact, being 18 during the housing crisis when a lot of people were losing their jobs meant that the jobs that were available, they were looking for young, cheap hires. So I think I actually lucked out that I got into some places because I wasn't those career, 20 something years in expensive people. I was a young talent, which was more affordable to them maybe as an alternative. I don't know. But I just never had an issue getting a job and then eventually buying a house in 2013. Never was a problem, all while still doing the National Guard, which I'm sure helped. But today it just seems grim for 20-year-olds, especially young men. Um, Professor Scott Galloway talks about this a lot. The problem with young men today. If you Google that phrase and Professor Scott Galloway, you'll find a whole bunch of clips of him talking about this. It's 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 not a great environment, and when young men don't have a place in society, it gets dangerous. And so we got to do something. We got to do something for our kids. Um, we got to get them off of the screens and into communities, healthy communities that hold each other accountable. Spirituality is a big one, but it could also be fitness. It could also be other things. It could be um, a bowling league, right? It could be anything, just something that's not online or online based. And I was a huge gamer. Like I remember when Xbox Live came out, I hopped on right away, and that was a nice escape for me because I had just moved to Tennessee as a teenager, and I didn't know anybody, and I was also homeschooled. So like it was my way of connecting with people. But as soon as I met some people down the street and started hanging out with them, and we started modding cars, and that became our thing as we were always outside like tinkering with cars or something. And yeah, we would game a lot, but that was always like at night, when the sun went down. So um, yeah, I just think we got to get these kids interacting with each other and looking each other in the eye even is so rare these days. Um, so yeah, let's see, Venus. Thanks. I watched the Jon Stewart episode. Yeah, it was it. it wasn't the Daily Show though. He has a podcast. I think it's called The Weekly Show with Jon Stewart. It's really good. I think it might be on YouTube as well. Another thing from Venus. My kid is 11, and I'm noticing in middle school, if they are supportive of trans, they're literally forced to be pro all the far left causes. Yes, I agree, and I don't know if they're being forced, but they tend to be that way. And that's what I meant about the 20 somethings that I've noticed. It's like it's like I can almost, and I try not to because I'm painting everyone with the same brush, but when I meet someone who is in their early 20s, I can assume they're pro Palestine, anti Israel, and I can assume they are vegetarian or vegan or have some interesting dietary preference that's not, standard. Uh, and I can guess that they're far left or left. Um, they probably don't own a firearm. They probably have no interest in being in the military. They probably don't go to church. And it's just something I also notice that they tend to fall into the left. And I noticed that with me being trans, as far as everyone assumes I'm also in those camps. And so when they talk to me, they just kind of approach me and say things like, "Oh, you believe this or that," or they say things that they assume I'll agree with, and I challenge them. And I'm like, I actually don't believe that. And so it's strange to me. Um, being back when they called it transsexual, the idea was you transitioned, you changed your name, you moved to a new town, and nobody knew. And there wasn't a set of beliefs that went with it because everyone, nobody knew you were trans. And if they did, it was hush hush, you know. And I'm not saying it needs to go back to being stigmatized, but like I said in my post originally, my before and after picture, where I stated my trans thoughts, I didn't transition for an identity. I already had one. I was Joe, and I flew helicopters, and I played musical instruments. I really was really into CrossFit, and I transitioned, and none of that changed. Well, except for getting kicked out, but I would still fly helicopters if I could. And I think because the 20 somethings and the 18 somethings don't have a lot going for them, I think they're finding trans identity as a community that gives them something because they don't have something, right? They don't have the job, the all the things. They don't have necessarily an identity beyond trans. And I think that's where the issue is when it comes to specifically young trans people. They fall in that category. Not everyone's like that. Not everyone who's young that's trans is like that, but the overwhelming majority that we're talking about, the stereotypical, chronically online, 20 somethings, I think that they they haven't established who they are beyond their gender identity. And that's what it is gender identity, not identity. So it's the same in the military. When people are in the military for a long period of time, especially like 20 years, and they get out, they usually become lost. Um, Not all of them, but there's a good amount of them that become lost after they get out because the military was their identity for so long. And without that, they don't know what to do, you know? Another example would be an athlete. So, a competitive athlete, their whole life is oriented around that. And then they get injured and they're not able to compete anymore. And you hear stories of this, of pro athletes that just spiral when they can't compete anymore because their whole life was wrapped up in that. And that's why it's so important to have those foundational aspects that I talked about in my post, my before and after picture post: diet, sleep, exercise, community, spirituality. If you don't have those things, it's really hard to be a functional, healthy human. Um, I think they said multiple times over, exercise reduces depression more so than an antidepressant. They had some sort of like scale, and they were saying it reduces it so many points, and it must have been a scale in a survey or a study or something. But like sleep and exercise and diet, like is like the majority of human issues, right? And we're sedentary and we're sitting around and we're not doing anything. We're eating like shit. We're not sleeping well because we're not doing anything because we're eating like shit. And that's what happens to us, you know? We become very unhealthy. And then also service to others. They found that like the happiness, what is it called? The key to happiness or whatever is actually doing things for others because our physiological response to that is actually endorphins and all of the things that make us feel happy. And so, in a funny way, we always say, "Oh, don't be selfish or whatever." But in a funny way, being selfish in the sense of I'm going to do this for other people because it makes me feel better is actually the key. Is service to others. And so, once again, you got to get involved. You got to have a community. You got to have a purpose. And being trans, not being trans, like that's not going to fix that. Um, there's no amount of surgeries or hormones you can take that's going to make you feel, that's going to fill the void of who you are as like core as a person. Um, and so I just worry that there's a lot of kids out there who are seeing the community aspects and the acceptance of trans in a lot of spaces as being the club to join versus look, I've got all these things going for me and like I still can't shake this gender dysphoria thing. And so I'm going to take care of that. Um, and I hesitate to prescribe the right way to do anything. Um, but I can say it's definitely easier to know if transition is right for you if you already have the other shit locked down: diet, sleep, exercise, community, spirituality. In fact, most things in life are easier if you have those things locked down. And you might be surprised what stops bothering you once you fix those things. Um, Not just gender dysphoria, but depression, anxiety, confidence. When I used to coach CrossFit, for those that don't know, I was a level 2 CrossFit coach. And I used to see people come into the gym, just kind of like sunken in, like head down, like no confidence at all. They just signed up and it took all of their courage to come in there because CrossFit can be intimidating for some people. And, that first workout and then that second workout and then that first pull up, for example, or whatever it is that they didn't think they could achieve and they did. And they just come alive. And then they come back into the gym and you can just see it. You can just see that they're doing so much better. And yes, like they're getting healthier over time. And yes, maybe they're eating a little bit better, maybe not. Um, but just the idea of like doing those hard things every day that gives you that sense of accomplishment can really improve your overall well-being. And it's amazing too, because they would come in and tell me like, oh, like my sex life is better. Oh, my wife or my husband like pays more attention to me, or I have more patience with my children. Um, there's so many effects to just diet, sleep, exercise, right? Community, spirituality, that it's all interconnected. And Joe Rogan talks about this a lot. I'm a huge Rogan fan. Sorry. I don't agree with everything he says, of course, but when it comes to his fitness talk and some of his other things and some of the people he has on, um, it's really good stuff. and you can learn a lot. Like if you do something difficult, like the rest of the day seems easy. Um, we're humans. We're meant to work. We're meant to do hard things, and um, our lives are so much handed to us when it comes to we're not spending all day looking for our next meal, which is a lot of work to go around and forage and or try to, hunt an animal or whatever it is. So we have a lot of time in our heads, especially when we're sitting around, we're working at desks or we're working from home. Um, we're isolated because we can have food delivered to us. We don't need to ever talk to anyone. It's not healthy. It's not healthy. So get out there, mingle, mingle with people that disagree. Have conversations that are uncomfortable with people. Disagree with decency, and you'd be surprised. I think that's probably where I'll leave this. Let's see, more comments. Oh yeah, Scott Galloway. Yeah, he's a great reference. Thanks, Venus. Um, the Velocity Raptor says queer sports heart. Yep, sports, anything, right? Whatever that community is, get out there and mingle with people. But I would encourage people to just play sports in general. Like, don't necessarily try to find an all trans this and an all queer that. Like, those are great, and it's nice to have those spaces. But I would just encourage you to mingle beyond that. Um, One thing I've noticed doing comedy, I I I tend to not go to the all queer comedian like nights. Like I I'm not looking to change their minds. I'm looking to change the minds of other people, and I'm looking to be that representation in those spaces where there aren't any. Um, and I think it makes it really easy to see the similarities with non-queer people because I don't know, like, yes, I'm trans and I'm all these things, and it is different, but at the same time, there's so much more that I have in common with someone who isn't trans. Like, I can talk about anything. Like trans doesn't have to be the focus point. And so while those safe spaces are great for especially early in transition, it was nice to have some of those all queer spaces. But as soon as I got confident and comfortable, I really didn't want to go to those anymore. I wanted to go out into the world and be with just people. And if they happen to be trans, great. If they weren't, okay, great. Um, I do both. Yeah, Velociraptor. Yep, definitely do both. Yeah. Yeah, get out there and be with people who aren't like you. It's like I said, like in the synagogue, there's trans people that I go to. Speaking of which, it's Rosh Hashanah Eve, so happy Jewish New Year to any and all of the Jews out there. I'm still in conversion, I haven't finished yet, so but anyway, I started actually last year, right after Rosh Hashanah, so I've almost done a whole calendar year. So I'm gonna make a brisket and slow roast it and get some challah bread with raisins in it and some kosher wine. Lastly, Venus says, great episode. You're such a blessing to this world on every topic. May you continually be blessed. Well, thank you so much, Venus. And you're a blessing as well. So I hope you continue to be blessed as well. And you and everyone who I interact with are in my prayers. And every Friday I light candles and I state out loud how thankful I am that I get to live a life of mostly happiness, regardless of all the stuff we talked about today. That I'm healthy. I I am the most content I've ever been. I love my family. I love my daughter, my ex-wife, who's my closest friend right now. Like, I'm so thankful. And I'm so thankful that there's so many people that seem to like what I'm doing and give me words of encouragement. And we'll just keep going. But this has been a long update, so thank you so much. I will post this as an actual video, and then I will also upload it to the podcast channels. So the Joe Ellis Effect, Give it a follow. It's on Apple and Spotify, or you can just keep watching on YouTube. And I will catch you on the next one. Bye.